All right, we're here live with Kathy Carter, my friend. How are you doing?
Awesome. How are you doing?
Doing well. Hey, nice shirt, red.
I got the memo. I got the
Yeah,
memo.
apparently we didn't even call each other. We just had that sixth sense, right?
We must for sure because you know what? I don't wear a ton of red to be honest with you.
Same here. I'm typically black or white and
Yeah,
maybe some blue, but
that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah. So, what I wanted to do today is just kind of interview you and get your story and your background and what you're doing. I can tell a little bit about how I met you. And I know we met many, many years ago in a coaching program, Craig Proctor's coaching program. And I was in that from, '03 to, gosh, I don't know. I was in there 10 plus years at least. I don't know.
Yeah.
How long were you in that
I was
program?
probably in that for about 5 years. My memory is not as good as yours, but I was probably in it 5 or 6 years. I mean, I started out in their basic and then went into platinum like you were in platinum, right? And
Yeah.
so I did that for probably 2 or 3 years up until the market crashed and turned. That's probably when I needed to stay in it the most, honestly. But yeah, I think about around that time when I jumped out. I think I got in about '04. So I think I was in about 5 years.
Yeah, I think that program was awesome. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, so I got into real estate. I was a teacher, school teacher, art
Mm,
teacher. I didn't know anything about real estate, and I was in a really small office. So here's a phone book, start calling, kind of thing. So I needed some direction and guidance, and
mhm.
got that in that program. And I think the reason I stayed in it through the REO stuff was I actually had a lot of friends that got me those accounts. That's how I was able to stay alive,
Mm,
because we had a big team. We had a big, overhead expenses with marketing and advertising, admins, inside sales, and then the bottom fell out of it.
yeah.
Right. So I was fortunate to be in there where I had people that were already experiencing REOs and kind of helped me get in.
Yeah.
And realistically, I don't know if I'd still be in real estate if it wasn't for that. So
Yeah.
that was a big thing for us. But and then we kind of crossed paths again when I got into EXP about 4 years ago, and I saw familiar faces, and you were one of them.
Mhm.
So before I spoil everything, why don't you kind of tell your story a little bit about real estate, why you got into it, how you got into it, and
Yeah, so I got in back in middle of '98, and so it's been a long time. And people ask me a lot, why did you get into real estate? And the only answer I have, let me, you probably don't know this. I actually got my license when I was about 21 or so. I'd gone to college. I was through my junior year. I was majoring in information systems. I was like, if I had to do this for a career, like I'll shoot myself. And so after my junior year, I ended up meeting my now husband, and I thought I'm going to sit out for a year and figure out what I want to do, go back to college, get my bachelor's, and my sister, I have a sister who's 12 years older than me. She had gotten her license. She's much more an introvert. She did it more for her own deals that she does, and so she also had been in information systems. So I kind of always was like following her
what
footsteps,
is information
kind
systems?
of like computer programming stuff, right? So yeah, like
Oh my
complete
gosh.
opposite of what I know. Can you believe? Aaron's like, Kathy, like I don't know.
Right.
That was 20 plus years ago, mind. Like I told you, I hated it. It was not my cup of tea for sure. And now those programs, that was COBOL, all the old stuff that you don't even have anymore. I don't guess, but so my sister got her license and said, I didn't really know what I want to do. I thought, I'll just do that. And so I got my license, ended up getting married, had a baby. I was working full time. And I realized in about a year and a half, like, this is a full time deal, and let it go, let my license go. And thought one day I'll go back to that. So I ended up being in the corporate world, kind of went up that ladder. And then, later down the road, I got my license. So it wasn't like because the money, it wasn't because, oh, I love looking at houses. It was just something that always stayed with me from those younger years, that I really think this is something that I would like to do. And so I jumped in it full time. Well, I jumped back in 15 years later. and was so excited about the business. Like I used to listen to a lot of the Tom Hopkins, right? Remember Tom Hopkins? And I remember just being so excited about some of the ideas that he shared. Like one that stands out to me, I'll never forget my brother. I had a brother 16 years older than me. And then here I come, my sister's 12 years and I'm the baby. And one of the CDs, heck, it may have been an 8-track at that time. I don't know. But one of them was he was talking about how he did things every month, right, for his farm area, his neighborhood. And in October, he would rent a flatbed, attach it to a truck, and give pumpkins out. Like, put the hay on it, put pumpkins, and just literally went out delivering them in the neighborhood. I was so excited about that idea. I remember calling my brother's a CPA, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be delivering pumpkins. I'm going to be putting 4th of July flags out on 4th of July. And he was like, okay, but I mean, I was just so excited. And so just anyway, jumped in it. And I think it was my enthusiasm. And because how much I was so into it, I just really, became quote unquote successful in my real estate business just through all that, just sheer excitement about it.
So did you do it part-time while you were
6 months? I did 6 months. And, as I said, we had a young, at this point, my boys now I had 2 boys, and time I jumped into it full time. When I went back and got my license again and decided to do it, I worked part-time. I mean, I worked still full-time in the corporate world, had the boys. They were, I don't even know how old they were at that point, 10 or 12. And I just told Steve about 6 months in, I'm like, look, if I'm going to be serious, and we needed my income, like I made about as much money as he made. I carry the insurance. We needed my income. And at the time I was making about 40 grand a year. And I just remember thinking I got to replace $40,000 when I left. And so 6 months into doing it part-time while I was still at my corporate job, I just prayed a lot about it. And long story, made that leap of faith. And it was a leap of faith. But when I left my corporate world, because I probably literally really was just praying through it for about 2 months. The day I left, and I'd been there 15 years. I loved the company I was with. I had complete peace about it. And I just had complete peace. Again, I think because I was so excited about real estate. And 5 years later, this was never a plan, but I had gotten so busy, and Steve ended up leaving his corporate world and joined me in real estate. And he joined me in 2005. So I probably went full time, got my license in 98. I think it was January or February of 99 when I left the corporate world and went full time.
Yeah. So our stories are kind of similar. I didn't even realize that, is that I was part-time for 1 full year while I was a school teacher. So basically from, September to about May. And around, I think, April, you had to turn in whether you were going to come back for another year or turn in your, resignation letter. And I handed my resignation letter in. I was doing good enough at that point to where I was like, I think I can do this. Like, I really think I can make a run at this full time. But I honestly think I see all the time in like Facebook groups and things like that, can an agent be successful part-time? And I absolutely believe they can if they have that mindset of transitioning into full-time relatively quick, like you did, like I did, I think there's a lot to work out. And if you just start and jump right in, you better have a little bit of a safety net as far as finances and things go. If you're brand new, I think that's why our attrition rate's so high, 80+% fail in the first couple years.
Yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of that is they have that mindset of, I can go sell one $400,000 home and make a $10,000 commission and all's good in the world, but it's not as easy as that. Right. And it doesn't happen like that, So I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic, because we both started that
way. Yeah.
From totally different backgrounds, me being an art teacher, you in information systems in the corporate world.
I think teachers do great in this profession, because they just have a heart to serve, first of all. So many teachers I've seen transition over the years from just like you into this business, and many of them, succeed. You just got to have the passion, and you've got to have, the get up and go, I guess, because, obviously nobody's pushing us to do anything on a daily basis. We're our own bosses. And so if you don't even if you don't know what the heck to do, you better be out there doing something, trying to, as I say all the time, you just got to shake the trees. I mean, I remember when I first got into it, my husband and I'll be out to dinner, and back in the day, I'm dating myself, they had the Holmes books, right? They had the Holmes books, and I would see somebody eating with the Holmes book, eating dinner, and I would tell Steve, I'm like, I'm going to go talk to them when we're leaving. He goes like, you're not going to talk to them. They're trying to enjoy dinner. And I'm like, I'm not pulling a chair up, but they're going to know I'm in real estate before we leave, And so like, if I ever saw an opportunity, like I was talking to people, people like that all the time.
Which makes it even weirder that you were going to do computer programming or information.
Gosh, yeah.
Because you're such a people person, right? So as far as like your team, so like you have you and now your husband that joined you almost, what was that? How many years ago?
05, yeah.
05, so quite a while now.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, when the market shifted, I was like, okay, I don't like having all our eggs in one basket, and insurance is a big cost for realtors. And back then there wasn't the opportunity that we have now here, where we're at. But he started working a part-time job in the school system just for insurance because they had great insurance. And so I'm like, okay, you're just going to be tied up in the afternoons from 2 to 5. And the rest of the time, you're free, and all summer, all that stuff. And so so he started doing that, and still does. He's going to retire because they have a great retirement if he would just stay, 15 years. Well, how long was it? Really till he's 60. I shouldn't tell his age. So he probably I hope you don't listen to this. But anyway, so he'll be 60 in this November of this year. And so he's like, oh, I'm not going to retire in the middle of the year. Now I'm really hoping a lot of people that he worked with isn't watching this too.
Right.
Oh, well, anyway, that's his plan. But he thought he would retire because at 10 years, you could be grandfathered in for the benefits. And then they hung this carrot out, and they're like, well, if you stay to your 60, so I keep telling him, when you go to talk to them again, there's going to be another carrot for you.
Right.
But anyway, so we had an assistant, had a full-time assistant.
So you had assistants. Did you ever have a big team of buyer's agents?
No. Okay. He operated mostly as the buyer's agent, and he still does that now. Like he still works with buyers, and I do most, and I too work with buyers, but because again, sometimes it's the hours that he's tied up. But now we have a virtual assistant.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's kind of new for us. We're working through learning how to work with an assistant virtually, but we have a virtual assistant. So it's still just the two of us. And our oldest son had gotten his license, and he was in general for about a year and a half. And he actually about a year ago moved into new construction. So it's kind of, yeah.
You also had told me that you were a managing broker for KW for a while, right? Yeah. And so we had KW in our backgrounds too. How was that experience managing? How many agents did you have?
We had 110 at our office. Wow. And so I was doing that right before the market shifted. I've done it. I was a manager broker for about 3.5 years. And I don't know how their pay structure is now, but at that point, like you had to keep selling, like the managing brokers don't get paid anything. And, at the end of the day, when you're a managing broker, you're just responsible, like in my case, for all 110 agents and mistakes, errors, anything that they make. Right. And so it was a lot of pressure. I feel like I spent a lot of time just keeping us out of court, to be honest, with contracts and things like that. And, I'm happy to say in those 3.5 years, we never did go to court. None of my agents ended up in arbitration, any of those things. And
that's awesome.
But I spent a lot of time preventing that from happening. And
right.
So, I felt in some ways like a babysitter, right, if you will. Yeah. And my production suffered some because I wasn't out there the way that I had been used to really being out there. And I'd always been the lead generator and what have you. And so, so it's just different. It's different when you're managing people versus when you're out there selling. It's just different.
So did you go from that role directly into EXP, or what'd you do in?
No. So I went from that and stayed there a couple of years after I stepped down as managing broker. And then I went to a 100% company in town.
Oh, okay.
So from Keller Williams, I went to 100% company. I'm out of Nashville here, and I was there for about 4 years, and then got introduced to EXP back in April of 2017.
Okay. So you were a year before me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was my own broker, and I had the delusion that I got 100% of everything that everyone, that I sold, of course.
Right.
And then all my agents, I didn't have any splits, but my splits came in other costs, like, all of the electricity and all the building cost and the overhead was
And all
immense,
that. Yeah.
right? And at the 100% company, it was nice to have the 100%. Were there any downfalls or pitfalls with being at that kind of structure, or?
So the downfall, I would say, for many at this point in my career, I didn't need I didn't need much support. I didn't need training. I didn't need any of that. And that's what that company served. The owner of that company, I have a great respect for him, still have a lot of great respect for him. And but their model wasn't like, the Keller Williams, they're very known for their training, right? Now
Right.
EXP's become very known for their training, or becoming very known for the training. But their model, that's not what that model was about. And so for me, it wasn't a downfall, but for a lot of agents, it would be a downfall. There was, it's literally a place to hang your license. And they did meet once a month. They have a big meeting and would do some training at once a month. Brought all the agents together. It's big. I mean, there are 1,000 agents at least in Middle Tennessee now at that company. Wow. So it's a huge independent. At the time, when I started originally, it wasn't that big. But so I would say if there's a downfall, that would be it.
So moving into EXP, was it easier then to talk to other agents to bring them in, as far as because of the training that was offered, or what were the things that I guess were your draw or why you came?
The thing that I saw with EXP, and they weren't really even launched in Nashville, because it's a complete no-name company. And, it's interesting. What I'll say is, when I went from Keller Williams to the independent company here, they were not a known name. They might have had 100 agents at the time. It may not have been that much, but nobody had heard about them. And it took me a year and a half probably to make that transition. Because when I first started my career, I was at Coldwell Banker 7 years. That first year I was rookie of the year with them. And then I went to Keller Williams I was there about 7 years, then moved to the independent. And when I made the move to the independent, it took me almost 2 years. A lot of the agents had moved, from Keller Williams to this independent, for the 100%. And it took me 2 years because I had always had a name right behind me. And this was a no-name company at the time here in Middle Tennessee. Well, I made the move, and then I realized, and I knew deep down, people are buying or selling with me. They're not buying or selling with the company name. But I was really hung up on a company name. So fast forward from that company, when I saw EXP, I remember having a conversation with my husband, because they were not really here in Nashville.
Right.
They had 2 agents, and that was it. And wow. I remember telling my husband, Steve, like, look, when we moved over to, our independent, it was no name. This company looks to me like it's going to be, it's on the cutting edge of a lot of things. And so I, first of all, didn't have to get over that, hurdle. But what I saw is it was a way for us to create a true business. And because, like you said, you had your own independent that you ran, and you're bringing in agents. And so what I knew, the only way to ever be leveraged, what are we taught in real estate? You go get buyer's agents and listing agents, right? And you leverage yourself. And then, you're responsible for giving them all the leads, right? Why does somebody want to even be on your team? So that, and then to give you any split, right? To give you any of their money. And then the good ones, like yourself, what's the next step was to go and open your own independent company, or to go buy into a franchise model. Let me go open a RE/MAX office. And we actually looked into partnering with RE/MAX, and we were looking at spaces and all, and it was right before the turn. And I thank God all the time, like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we did not do that. But that's the next step that happens. It's it's like, let me open my own, and I'll bring agents in, and get a I'll work with them and train them up, and, get a percentage of that. And so that's what the succession, for realtors to ever be leveraged and to ever really build a business where you're not responsible yourself for being there, making things happen or, bringing income. So when I saw EXP, at the end of the day, I saw how Glenn, our founder, had built the model that really incorporated all of that without all the liability, the risk, the overhead, the responsibility to train those people, the responsibility that I had as a broker to make sure that I kept us out of court, right? I could plug them into the system that EXP had already built, even though they were still a no-name company in Nashville, but they had grown in other market, other cities. And Steve and I talked, and I was like, look, it's good to me. It looks like it's going to be a great thing. We're never going to know unless we just take the plunge and try it and give it one full year and give it everything, be fully engulfed in the company, learn, take advantage of all the things that they have. And in 12 months, we can look back and evaluate. And if it's not as good as we think it's going to be, what's the worst thing that happens? We go back to where we were, right? Or even somewhere else at that point.
Yeah, I think, that's kind of, it's part of the fallacy in a real estate business, so to speak, is I fell prey to that or victim to that, as a lot of people think that, oh, I have a business, I'm the team leader and I have assistants and I have payroll and I have, employees, and then I have independent contractors that work for me as buyer agents and listing agents, and that's a business.
Yeah.
But realistically, it's not a business. You still own your job, right?
That's
because, one of my favorite books by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he said, you don't really own a business until you can step away from it for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And it's at the same place or it's grown since you've been gone.
That's right. Without you being responsible to be in the middle of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I could never step away from my business for 6 months. I would be, in disaster mode,
Yeah.
Definitely major catch up. But I know because of the way EXP is structured, we can actually do that. We can build for that to come. And you've kind of really taken the bull by the horns on that, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Sorry, the Texas phrase, but, tell a little bit about your, modern agent team and how you have evolved into that way with EXP.
Yeah. So, when we made the move, and let me go back to my other companies. I referred agents to every company I was a part of. I'd be doing transactions and people like, oh, I see you're at Keller Williams. How do you like Keller Williams? I love it. You should come. I was there because it's where I thought it was the best place to be. Right. And so I, by default, just referred agents to the company. And of course, they have their profit share model, but, we won't get into all of that. But many times, there wasn't any profits to be shared, right? But even with the company, the independent company, I referred several agents there and they were nice. This was completely unexpected, but I got a gift card for $25. Hey, thank you for referring so-and-so. And I was very appreciative because I didn't refer them because I was going to get anything. Right. So, when I saw the model with EXP, I'm like, I'll refer a few agents, even without trying. And, if they paid this revenue share they're talking about, just by default, I'll make a few bucks off of that. Right. And so, so I referred a few agents when I came into EXP over the course of the next several months. And, it started picking up some legs in, a couple of agents, and then people started seeing more signs. And so we started growing and more curiosity around it became, specifically here in Nashville at the time. And what is happened now, fast forward 4.5, almost 5 years later, is I have referred, a handful of agents, really about 20, 25 agents. But now those agents have referred agents.
So that's not like full-time recruiting by any stretch of the imagination.
No, right? No. I mean, I still sell for sure. And so, but what's happened is in December alone, just a month or 6 weeks ago, because I built a team, right? So the modern, what I call and you mentioned it, the modern day team, I ended up really getting an override on over 500 transactions for the month of December. So, people that are running traditional teams or they're running independent companies and
that's in a month, right?
That was a month. And
Holy
it's like,
cow.
how many people that are running the traditional team or or even have their own independent company, like you as your owner, how would you have liked to have been able to get, an override on 500 transactions in a month?
That would have
Right?
been awesome.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
very
so,
awesome.
but the beautiful thing is, I didn't have the responsibility for training. Of course, I support, in any way that I can or need to, but I'm not the broker. I don't have to worry about us being pulled into court. We've got brokers that handle that. And so the other thing that is unique that I saw is it wasn't just, if I knew agents, which I did, just like you through our Craig
Mhm.
Proctor program and other, events that we go to as professionals in our industry, right, all over. So we all have connections of agents all over the United States. So it wasn't like if I referred an agent in Texas where you are, if I'd happened to refer you, like that's, you're part of, the whole network, right, that I have built.
Right.
So 5.5 years later, just by me tipping some dominoes, I have a network now that's, about 1,500 agents, a little more actually.
Wow, that's incredible. So
Mm-hmm.
you're all across the states. You said 3 countries, and
Yeah.
so getting paid in other currencies.
Well, thankfully they pay me in US dollars.
Well, that's right.
But yeah, it's more what I like to say is I get paid when I'm asleep, right?
Yeah, no,
You
and
know,
that is a true business,
Yeah,
right?
that's a true business. So I could walk away today from real estate and I could walk away from it all. And, because we're getting paid on those transactions, it pays way more than our bills. And that is what Kiyosaki talked about. That was a life-changing book for me too. It's like, and I ask people all the time, I ask agents, especially if I'm doing a presentation, how many agents in here think they own a business? Every hand goes up. My
Right.
hand went up, right? And then when I read that book that you mentioned, and then the cash flow quadrant, that was a follow-up book, I'm like, I don't own a business. I just own it. I own a job,
Yeah.
like we're
You're a little
self-employed
embarrassed
and
about
own
it.
a job. So
Yeah.
it was eye-opening for me when I read that book too. And I'm like, okay, how do we as agents create a true business where it's not dependent on me having to filter the leads, do all that? And then when EXP came along, I was like, this is how I can help a whole lot of people. And quite honestly, I remember telling Steve, my husband, I was like, if this model works, we can liberate our industry.
Oh,
The general public has no idea what agents do. And I blame that on HGTV. I feel like they feel like we get in a car, we drive around, we show 3 houses, then we make a lot of money.
that's
Like
right.
the day-to-day life of a realtor is so stressful. The general public doesn't, they don't really understand. And I think we as an industry, we do not a good job educating. And I've thought many times, man, how can I just do a video to educate the public without, you know, throwing, people under the bus or the industry under the bus or sounding like I'm complaining. But it is a little frustrating, and I haven't figured out how do we educate the public. But anyway,
And I think
now I'm going off the bunny trail with that. But
I think that kind of that falls back on us as realtors, to one, be better,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
be better, do better amongst people, and be better between ourselves. I had a conversation with an agent this week. She had lost out on a multiple offer situation, and she asked what she could have done better in the offer to get it without revealing price and all that. I
right.
kind of went through all the steps and how she could have made her offer stronger. And she's like, I didn't think you would give me this much detail. And I was like, well, it's my job as a human to be better so that our industry gets better.
Yeah.
And we're better as people. Right. And brokers, as when I was one, should be teaching that.
Yeah.
Right. And they should be doing that on a daily basis,
Yeah.
So that our industry gets better and the public perception of our industry
gets better. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. There's so much in our business to learn. It really isn't it's not at all as easy as it looks, like I mentor some new agents coming in and, to our business. And I think, man, all the stuff that you have to really learn, now right. 23 years later, although it's ever changing, it's like, oh my gosh, you better learn, you better be on social media, you better learn, TikTok. I'm like, oh, I hadn't even got TikTok yet.
I'm not a very good dancer,
Changing,
Kathy.
you got to be in front of it all. What's that?
Said I'm not a very good dancer. I don't know about TikTok.
I know, me neither. But it's like ever changing, and like you always just got to stay, try to stay ahead. And but to wipe all that away, and you go back to what all you and I now take for granted, like how to even search properly in our MLS system. It's like how to do the contracts, how to be creative in this crazy market for our buyers with our offers. How do we structure those the best? Right? So imagine even the veterans like ourselves. Imagine the new agents. I think, oh my word, bless them.
Yes.
Like, they're just trying to figure out how to work MLS, and then you're getting into these multiple offers, and you got agents getting all kinds of creative, with their offers. It's a lot to work your clients through the process, and
I think that's one of the huge benefits or draws to EXP for me as well, is that you can feel like you can give to everybody because everybody's giving to you, because we all want the company to do better, because we benefit in the company growth and stock. And we didn't even talk about that, but like there's so many things that we benefit for by making our industry better.
100%.
And I think that's why we're growing at across the scroll bar, 1,100 agents per week are joining EXP. When I joined 2018 in April, there was 6,500 agents. And now we're over 71,000, in less than 4 years. 73,000. See, I can't even keep up with it.
I know. Going back. But you're so right, Aaron. It's like, because we're all agent owners, we have vested interest with our stock. And, the better you do, the better any agent does, whether they're quote unquote part of my organization or yours, part of your, it's like the better we do as a company, the better, or as agents, the better we do as a company, theoretically, the better the stock's going to do. And so, when I came on, the stock was about $3 a share. Right now, I haven't looked in the last couple of days, but it's been running about $30, and that's after a 2-for-1 split last year. Well, that's just all cherry on top. Steve and I sold a few shares because we'd accumulated a lot of shares by doing what we do: sell houses, right? Selling houses. We accumulated some shares of stock, and as agents, we're able to buy it even at a 10% discount, right? So we looked at our portfolio in December of 2020. And we decided to sell a few, pay off one of our rental houses. That would have never happened had we still been with any past company. That was strictly off of stock, doing nothing more than what we do, sell, and then we bought some at the discount that we were able to buy through the years. So now we have this paid for rental house, and that fully cash flows, paying off one of our
more residual income.
Yeah. And so it's all, to me, about everything comes back to about leverage. That's what I think EXP allows us as agents to be leveraged in multiple ways.
Well, I think you summed it up perfect. Is the leverage is the key in any business. That's all you talk about is leverage, and it does provide you the ultimate leverage and many vehicles. And if you want to stay in the vehicle of selling homes like I do, I still sell 70 homes a year myself.
Right.
Stay in that vehicle and accumulate stock while you're doing it for doing things that you're normally going to do anyways. But Kathy, I just want to say thanks for coming on and spending some time with me and my Facebook and YouTube audience crowd, and sharing your words of wisdom, because you've been in the business a long time, like me, 20 plus years. And
we're much too young.
For sure.
Especially me. You really are much too young to be 20 years.
But no, thank you for coming on here, and I will repay the favor for sure. So I appreciate you, and I hope you have a blessed day.
You too, Aaron. Good to see you, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.